You know, it's so easy to get frustrated with how things are run, right? No matter where you are in the world. But what if we could actually get past all that noise and find a better way forward? In this explainer, we're going to dig into a really powerful argument for how regular citizens in India can stop feeling powerless and start being a real force for change. So let's kick things off by zooming out a bit.
This quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of it. We see so much shouting, especially online. And look, it's totally understandable to be passionate. But this is a reminder that the very first and most important step to fixing anything is to really, truly understand what's broken in the first place.
All right, so to really get a handle on the situation, we need a solid reality check. Let's just look at the data and see where India actually stands on a few key global rankings. And this isn't about pointing fingers, it's just about knowing our starting line.
Okay, so this number here, it's from the Corruption Perceptions Index. It basically measures how experts and business leaders see corruption in a country's public sector. Now, India's ranking, it's not just about a few bad apples. What the source material makes really clear is that a number like this points to a perception of weak accountability systems inside public institutions. It's a signal that the system itself needs a tune-up.
And it goes beyond just corruption. Let's talk about well-being. This chart shows there's a gap between India's happiness score and the average for countries with similar economies. You know, things like having people you can count on, feeling free to make your own life choices, and actually trusting your institutions. Those are all huge for a society's happiness. This data kind of suggests there's some work to do on building up that trust.
And yeah, the story doesn't stop there. You've got the Human Development Index, which looks at stuff like health and education, and the Environmental Performance Index measuring sustainability, and both of them point to some really deep structural challenges. So when you put it all together, you realize these aren't just isolated issues. They're painting a much, much bigger picture. Now, it is so easy to look at those numbers and just blame corruption or incompetent leaders. But what if those are just the symptoms? What if the real disease is something much deeper? The argument we're exploring today says that these numbers are pointing to a problem that goes way beyond the usual headlines.
And that leads us to this really pivotal question. If we just stop at blaming corruption, are we missing the whole point? Are we missing the real opportunity for change? What if the root cause is something more basic? Something that we, as citizens, actually have more power to change than we think?
So here's the twist. We tend to focus on what we can see, right? The bad decisions, the malpractice, the corruption. But the core argument here is that the real problem, the one underneath everything else, is a knowledge gap. It's the simple fact that most of us don't really have a clear picture of how power actually works, how decisions get made, or where the money really goes. So this knowledge gap, what is it? Well, think of it as this huge space between us, the citizens, and the incredibly complex, often confusing machinery of government. It's this disconnect, this gap, that feeds our frustration and makes us feel like we have absolutely no say in the things that shape our lives. And here's how that gap messes with our daily lives. Policymaking feels like it's happening in some secret room we're not allowed into. The data that experts use might as well be in another language. And yeah, governments put out tons of data, but it's often so complicated you can't do anything with it. And what's the end result of all that? We feel completely powerless. Okay, but here's the good news. That knowledge gap, it's fixable. So now let's get into the practical stuff. Let's talk about the toolkit that any citizen can start using to make a real difference. This is where we shift from just talking about the problem to actually doing something about it.
I love this line. It perfectly captures the change in mindset we need. The goal isn't just to complain more effectively, it's to engage more functionally. It's about taking all that energy from being frustrated and channeling it into something productive and focused.
So how do we do it? Here it is, a simple 3-step playbook. And you don't need to become a policy expert overnight. First, just learn the tools that are already out there. Second, team up with other people who care. And third, get strategic. Pick one specific battle that you can actually win.
So let's zoom in on step 1. These aren't just vague ideas. They are real, powerful tools you can use right now. The Right to Information Act, or RTI, is a legal right that lets any citizen ask the government for information. Public budget websites, government data portals, these are treasure troves of information just sitting there, but they are massively underutilized. Just learning how to use one of these is a total game changer.
Now, steps 2 and 3. This is all about strategy. You don't have to try and solve all of India's problems at once. You don't have to boil the ocean. Instead, this is about understanding that small, dedicated groups can accomplish what a bunch of scattered individuals never could.
It's all about the power of focus.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? Thinking about the huge scale of a nation's problems can be completely overwhelming. It can make you feel like, why even bother? But if a small group of people decides to fix one specific thing in their neighborhood, and they show up with data, their chance of success goes way, way up.
So what does a focused problem actually look like in the real world? Well, instead of trying to tackle the education system, how about focusing on the test scores in your local schools? Instead of water scarcity, maybe investigate the distribution problems on your street. These are tangible, measurable problems where a data-driven argument can have a massive impact.
You see, this is how real, lasting change actually happens. It's usually not because of one giant protest. It's built slowly, piece by piece, on a solid foundation of evidence. It starts with one small win, and that builds momentum for the next one. It's a methodical process, not just an emotional one.
So, where does all this leave us? Well, this isn't a call to go out and fight the government. It's actually an invitation to understand how power really works and to engage with it in an intelligent way. This is where the real hope for better governance actually comes from.
And this powerful final thought from our source material just reframes the whole debate. The solution isn't necessarily a smaller government or a bigger one. The solution is a smarter, more informed, and more engaged citizen body that knows exactly how to hold power accountable.
And that brings us to the final question, and this one is for you. This whole explainer has been about moving from frustration to function. So, thinking about your own community, your own neighborhood, what is the one specific issue that you will choose to understand deeply and maybe, just maybe, begin to change?